You're watching For the Record. Once again, here is your host, Jim Needleman.
We're back with Illinois Congressman-elect Eric Sorensen. I like the ring to that. You have less than 2 months before you take the oath, maybe right around 2 months actually, before you take the oath. What priorities will you take there for the district? And do you start thinking about even formulating legislation now, or is it too early for that kind of thing?
Well, we've got to make sure that it's a continuation of what the people here have already gotten. Sherry Bustos, early on, she earned my vote. I voted for her because she was present. She was present in the smaller communities. We saw the work that she did for the arsenal. We saw the work that she did for agriculture. We need someone now that's going to be able to take that baton and continue on with it. Especially next year, we're going to have the Farm Bill. We've got to make sure that everything is there in the Farm Bill that is going to meet the demands of the next 5 years. One of the things that we've got to be able to do is look at our lock and dam system. Especially here on the Mississippi River, from a fall here where we've seen record low levels of water. We've got to make sure that the lock and dam system is built to 1,200-foot length so that we can get our commodities to the world market faster. That in turn is going to help our agricultural community. And so that's something that we've got to make sure is in the next Farm Bill.
Touched on earlier about the bitterness and the division, how that could affect you personally and professionally, but how about a divided Congress but not being able to get anything done? How concerned are you about that?
I think that's always a concern. I mean, and I hear that from people in our communities too. It's the fact that, what is Congress doing for me? And I go back early in this process, back in the campaign, I had a lady at the Jewel Osco come up to me and she said, "Eric, I miss how you used to tell us how the weather works." And I laughed with her, and then she gave me that grandmotherly pat on the back and she said, "Eric, I can't wait for you to get to Congress so you can explain how Congress works," right? But that is her expectation for me, to explain how it works, to prove to her what works. And that's what's going to be different.
You'll be a newbie there. You're going in as a freshman. How much do you feel you'll have to fall in line with the Democratic Party leadership in legislation as a freshman, or how do you carve out your own way? Well,
one of the things I believe, Jim, is while the office is on Capitol Hill, the work is done here. And so I will be accountable to the people in this district, not the political leaders in the political party or whomever is going to be Speaker of the House.
The day after the election, President Biden says he wants to work with Republicans but won't compromise on issues like abortion, Social Security, and climate change. Do you agree with that, or will there be some of these areas that have to involve compromise?
Well, I think there's always going to be compromise in bills on the House floor. But when we talk about rights like reproductive rights, like the rights for women to make their health care decisions on their own, I don't believe that there is a middle ground there. We need to make sure that the next Congress votes, and I will vote, to codify the right for an abortion into law. When we talk about climate change, we need to make sure there isn't a silver bullet. But as the first meteorologist in Congress in 50 years, we've got to look at the science. What makes sense today? We have to focus on those things. Instead of there being a silver bullet, there's silver buckshot. There are pieces that work today. We need to make sure that we're making the solutions happen so that our farmers can go to bed tonight and understand that we're doing the right things today so that they've got 5 more generations on their farm. It's going to be viable for 5 generations.
You've been on the outside looking in for so long now. You'll be on the inside. Of course, you've been watching and certainly following politics for so many years, like we all do. Who in Congress are you looking forward to having the conversations with the most?
Certainly, I look at someone, across the aisle, like a Darren LaHood or a Marinette Miller-Meeks. I also look at Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury from New Mexico. Before she went to Congress, she was a water resources manager. And so we've had many conversations about what can we do together to work to make sure that the aridification of the desert Southwest, we can work on desalinizing. So that we don't have a water crisis that we're just going to give to our kids and grandkids. We're going to solve that looking forward. So it is building these relationships so that we can actually get the work done and get it done by partisanship.
Got to finish up with a really tough question here. How do you feel about people calling you Congressman Weather Dude?
That's all right. In fact, I took a call yesterday from a member of Congress, and he said, Eric, this hurricane that's coming up the East Coast, what do you think is going to happen here in D.C.? And I said, well, I keep an eye on that. I'm really focused on what's ahead.
Elect Eric Sorensen, thank you. Still to come, more ripple than wave. What to make of the smaller than expected gains by Republicans in Congress and races across the country. For the Record.